Thanks very much to Tobago Benchmark for inviting me. And I wanted to start off by saying I understand the environmental points. I understand the points about the concerns of the community. And I think that this is a very Tobago-centered meeting and is an important meeting. But we have to take a pause and try to reach beyond Tobago to try to learn what has happened in other relevant examples. Somebody asked earlier on about whether you all had considered anything to do with other parts in the Caribbean where Sandals had been. And I want to relate to Trinidad. I want to talk to Trinidad about this question, because there's learning to come from Trinidad on this question. The way we normally deal with these large-scale development questions, I'm going to put forward a model with 3 parts. The first part is the concept. And the concept is, what are we really talking about? So in this case, we're talking about a large-scale luxury hotel. The second part is the part that we almost never talk about, which is the underlying commercial arrangements. The parts that nobody ever talks about. So we know that Sandals gets a tax holiday in Grenada. And we know they have a big confusion in Antigua with Sandals. How many millions a year does Grenada give up? We don't know. You understand me now? Yeah. How many millions a year does Barbados give up? We don't know. So the most important part of the arrangement, the deepest part of the arrangement, and the reason that the whole thing takes place is invisible. So we have a world that is seen, and the world that is seen is the politicians on TV giving speeches, whether it was Mr. Pandey with Tobago Hilton, or Dr. Rowley with the current proposal, and so on. At the end of that, we have a building. So we have Tobago Hilton, and we have Hyatt in Port of Spain, and we have Trinidad Hilton up by the Savannah, yes? But what about in between? In between is the underlying commercial arrangements. And without those underlying commercial arrangements in place, nothing takes place. And as educated people, we've had 60 years of public education in this country. As educated people, we need to focus our mind on what is important and disregard what is merely interesting. So it's interesting to discuss certain things. I believe it's important, the underlying commercial arrangements, which is why they are never discussed in public. And that's what I am here to talk about. So I'm not here to discuss who is the architect and how many stories the building is and how many nights a week they will have steel band in there. I don't care. I'm very focused. I use in my 12 minutes to discuss what nobody else has discussed, the underlying commercial arrangements. Now, the first thing we need to understand, and we're going to run through it quite quickly. I don't have much time. My slides aren't working. No problem. Little technical problems. The first thing we have to understand is that when we discuss development in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a very poor discussion. And a very poor discussion, I mean, and I'm going to be specific in everything I say today, I mean that we are speaking and we hear ministers and important people and so on, contractors and developers saying that they're building this project, and this project costs 600 million, and this project is $1 billion, and they never discuss the cost of the land. All they're discussing is the cost of the contract to build the building. All of them. So the entire discussion is very poor, because without the land, there couldn't be a project. And without proper balance in between the land you're using and the land you're not using, you destroy the environment, which is the lesson that some people have been driving at in their discussion earlier on. Now, there are 2 models to build these large-scale international hotels in the Caribbean. 2 models. There's the model Trinidad and Tobago has been doing all the time, and then there's the Sandals model. Let's discuss the 2 models, the 2 procurement models. Our model, our Trinidad and Tobago model, is a model in which, because we come from a wealthy country, we have been able to use our money to design, build, furnish, and fit out the hotels. So Trinidad Hilton, 1962, the first Hilton built outside of continental USA, our government paid for that. That property belongs to us. Tobago Hilton, down here, 1999 to 2000, Mr. Pandey, our government paid for that. Hyatt, Port of Spain, our government paid for that. That is the Trinidad and Tobago model. And this is, I'm trying to get into the underlying commercial arrangement for us to understand. When you do that model, where we spend our taxpayers' money to build the building, the company that's operating the hotel has to enter something called a management agreement, a management contract with the government. And as part of the management contract, they have to have accounts prepared by a firm that they won't agree. They both have to review the accounts. And those accounts and those monies are distributed in accordance with the management contract. So a portion of money will go to Trinidad and Tobago, and a portion of money will go to Hilton or whoever. That is it in outline. The second model, which is the rest of the Caribbean, because they don't have the kind of money we have. When they want to attract a big hotel down there, Antigua and Grenada and these places don't have money to build anything for those 60 million and 70 million US. They don't have that kind of money. It's just a fact. So what they do, they take a piece of land and they say to the hotelier, okay, you want to build a hotel? Look, use this piece of land. The hotelier will take their money and build their property on the land. But in exchange, they want a tax holiday. Which is how come you have the confusion going on in Antigua and Barbados and Grenada and all of these things that we talked about briefly. We don't have time to go in all of that. I want to make some conclusions jumping off from that. Going back to the first model, this model here, the model that Trinidad and Tobago was used, where we build the buildings and operate a management agreement. I want to say that that model, in my opinion, in the 3 examples I gave, has not worked for the country. We have not been able to make it work. And if we have been able to make it work, I've not seen the figures, because part of the commitment to how the thing really, really runs is that the underlying commercial arrangements are never disclosed. So we always end up discussing some petty detail. How much money did Hyatt in Port of Spain make last year? I don't know. You know? How much money did Trinidad Hilton make last year? Do you know? The Hotel Tobago Hilton, that is now called Magdalena, is run in a partnership with a foreign company, Hospitality Solutions. How much money did they make last year? Nobody knows. Big mystery, like a detective story, and it's our country. That is the question we should be asking. I'm giving my younger brother, Tidan, a little suggestion. He's pushing for information. That is the information we want. If you're pushing for information and you're working with people and you're working in a team and you're building up some momentum, let's get information on Trinidad Hilton, on Hyatt Trinidad, and Tobago Hilton, now known as Magdalena. And that will give us a background and a structure to understand what we have to understand about the Sandals thing. Because otherwise we just, okay? So that's my suggestion to you. I can't tell you what to do. Coming on to Trinidad and Tobago to understand where we are. The Trinidad and Tobago model, I've described what's happened so far. And I made a statement about how it didn't benefit us, and I want to back it up. There was a really remarkable statement in Parliament in the first part of June of 2014 from the then Attorney General, Anand Ramlogan. And Anand Ramlogan had just completed a successful negotiation, a sort of an arbitration sort of court case against the people who ran Hyatt International in Port of Spain. And Ramlogan disclosed some shocking things to the Parliament. And I want you all to follow me as we go into the details of the things that we almost never discuss in this country. He disclosed that as part of the management arrangement that Hyatt International had with UDICOT, because UDICOT is owned by the government, in relation to Hyatt Port of Spain, they call it Hyatt Regency, there was some small piece of information, some small piece of paper, it doesn't matter what, we don't have time to go into all of it now. There was a small piece of paper that the Trinidad and Tobago side did not have in order. We didn't handle our stories. And Hyatt International was able, between 2008, when the hotel opened in January 2008, to June of 2014, Hyatt in Port of Spain, that was always full. All of us have been to functions there. We know people who went to functions there. They never paid a cent to the Trinidad and Tobago government because that one piece of paper wasn't in place. Did we know that? I didn't know that. because we had the great Mr. Calderhart and Mr. Manning and a whole lot of great people were running the whole thing. Nothing was wrong. Mr. Ram Logan revealed that in Parliament. It's in Hansard. I'm going to publish it just now. He had to take them to court, and when he won the case, in a procedure that they call arbitration, when he won the case, it is 334 million Trinidad dollars that Hyatt was holding in their back pocket. That's why I'm saying the arrangements have never worked. So Mr. Noel Garcia, who is now the current head of UDICOT, could go to the Joint Select Committee in May of this year, 2016, and he could tell the Joint Select Committee that in fact Hyatt is a cash cow and is making a lot of money, and in fact has made so much money it's virtually paid back the cost of construction. It is corroborated by Ram Logan's account of the story. Okay? The Hyatt arrangement, which is the best of the lot, didn't work. Let's talk about Hilton in Trinidad. Because we have to talk facts. Let's talk facts. I don't want to go and discuss St. Lucia and Antigua and Barbados. When we have things right here, we're not discussing. We're not serious. We have to be serious. Let's talk about Hilton in Trinidad. That hotel was to be refurbished in 2008 as part of the whole preparations Mr. Manning's government was making for the Commonwealth Heads of Government and the Summit of the Americas and these events and so on. And UDICOT started a refurbishment program, not UDICOT, I'm sorry, ETEC, started a refurbishment program of a budget of about 484 million TT dollars. So the cost to refurbish the hotel, which is 418 rooms, was 484 million TT. The whole procedure was very complicated because, of course, the hotel was still running and these big events were taking place. So you have to block off part while they're doing part and so on, okay? At this moment, they haven't added any rooms to the hotel. They've spent 508 million. The budget to complete is over $645 million. The head of ETEC was telling Parliament in April this year, he doesn't have any idea when the project is going to finish. Were they listening to me? All of that money was borrowed by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Hilton didn't put any money. Now, how I understand these arrangements are supposed to work is that a part of the money that is flowing through the hotel is supposed to go into a fund for repairs and refurbishment. I don't know if that's part of the Hilton arrangement in Port of Spain. You could ask that. I don't know if that part of the arrangement has been observed. You could ask that. And you could ask how much funds is in that account. Because our government, we shouldn't have to weigh down on our treasury for all of that money. And the last example, of course, is the Tobago Hilton, now known as Magdalena, where Stephen Cadiz was able to tell the Parliament, I think it was in 2011, Cadiz told the Parliament, he was the Minister of Tourism at the time, that the cost between building it in the first place and then having to rebuild it, with all the nonsense that took place the first time, is $388 million that building cost. He didn't cost the land, of course. So we have a lot of money sloshing around in the system. And we don't know, as I said at the beginning, if we're making any money. Let me give you another indicator. All of these hotels, whether it's Magdalena, whether it's Hyatt in Port of Spain, whether it's the Hilton in Port of Spain, whether it's the Sandals that we're discussing now, all of these hotels, the bulk of the people staying there are foreigners. Either they're fellow citizens who live overseas, or they're genuinely foreigners coming to Trinidad for some reason. And most of the bookings, as somebody said earlier on, taking place online with your credit card and so on. And we have arrangements with those people. Do we get any US? Do we know? We don't know. This is, I'm talking about the fundamentals of the arrangement. We literally don't know. And we have to get the consciousness. We have to get the consciousness to understand that those are the things. When Wendell Motley and Terence Farrell and the people on the committee sitting down with the people from Bud Stewart's people, that is what they're discussing, you know. Let's be very clear. That is what they're discussing. So if we mean to have an intervention and an understanding about what development really, really means and what it really, really could mean, we have to understand that too. And we have to begin with understanding what has actually happened in our country. I think I'm at the 11th minute. So, thank you. I'll just close off with two little things to try to keep it light. When I was in the development business, I still am, when I was in the development business, there were two phrases we used to describe people who protest against development. There's one class of persons who in fact is a well-meaning person, they're educated, they're conscious, they want to free Nelson Mandela, they want to end to child labor, they want equal rights for women, and they're all very conscious and they have the right nice t-shirts and everything. But if you come around into their neighborhood and you want to build a development for ex-prisoners or single mothers or rehabilitated drug addicts, you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. They don't want it. So the word we had for them is NIMBY, not in my backyard. So they're very conscious about everything. And you could build anything, and they like progress. They like new things. They have a new cell phone and they have a new car, and they like new things. But the factory to build that mustn't be anywhere by them. And the last type of person, the one that we really used to give us a lot of trouble. Because in NIMBYs you can understand that everybody has a little bit of a NIMBY in them. But the second one, we used to call them bananas. And those are people who are so environmentally conscious that they don't want anything to be built at all at any point anywhere. And we call them bananas, which means build absolutely nothing anywhere, never again. So those people are bananas. You don't want to build nothing. Okay? Now, I am saying my own approach to this question, for whatever it's worth, is that the project could have merit for airlift. It's certainly, let me just answer a concern somebody had earlier. One of the ladies down where I was sitting down in the back there, one of the ladies was saying that in fact a lot of the hotel rooms at present are empty. This is a point people were making, and that is true, but I think we need to be careful. Sure. We need to be careful. Hear me out. We need to be careful that we don't conflate those empty hotel rooms with the Sandals project, and I'll tell you what I'm saying. The type of person Sandals appeals to, the market, that level of the market is not coming to Trinidad and Tobago now. Unless they married a Trinidadian, or they were best friends with a Trinidadian school when they were at some Ivy League school, or they're on some particular transaction and they come to Hyatt to meet a minister. They may come in Trinidad right now. If Sandals came here, I'm just saying those people who never came here before is who will start to come. So in fact, it's opening a different window than the people who are not currently. That's just my own observation about that point. So I'm going to close there, and thank you for your time. Thank you.